But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Welcome to this week's edition of Total Health Live. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of drvogelmann.com, and my new coaching program for, mainly doctors called Fundamental Shift. And with me, as always, is the noted nutritionist, the nutritionist to the stars, the one whom I've known forever and a day.
Me. And I just wanted to, I thought I had it in a good place, my bouquet, because this came directly from the farmer's market, our local farmer's market on Sunday, but maybe I should bring it closer.
Is there some farmer who's sweet on you that gave you a bouquet?
Me.
Oh, okay.
I'm sweet on me. You should
BYOB. Buy your own bouquet. Yeah, BYOB. Buy your own bouquet.
Sweet on you because you're all you've got. And that intro reminds me of the intro I used to do, the music that I used to do with my television show called Total Health Talk. And we would sort of course, have a lead in and everything. And I can't remember the tune. I thought I'd never forget the tune because we did that show for 12 years.
Was it Greensleeves?
It was original. It was, I don't know if it was original. Actually, I don't know.
Well, this one is royalty free. It comes with a StreamYard package.
I'm sure mine was royalty free, but I know at some point we had some original music in something we did. Oh, I know what it was. It was my YouTube channel. We had some original music. So go and check that out whenever you can, my YouTube channel.
Is it Monika Klein on the YouTube channel?
Monika
or Coaching
Klein,
for Health?
It is. Yes.
It's not the Monika Klein Zone?
No, it's not the Monika Klein Zone.
Okay. We'll look for it.
Actually, it might be the Monika Klein Zone. I'll have to ask my assistant. It might be. I'm sorry to say.
That's okay. No apologies necessary. No apologies necessary. Yeah. Some of us suffer from pandemic brain.
No, it has nothing to do with pandemic brain. It has to do with you when you've got a lot of people helping you over the years, and then you kind of like defer it to them because it's their project, it's their baby, and anyway,
it's my project.
It's a good thing to have help. It's a good thing to have help, but know where everything is if they decide to take a day off.
Take a day off. Take a chance. Take a day off. So we were going to rendezvous today and go back to some topics that we had previously covered, but looking at other things. So aside from the farmer's market with the roses or the flowers, did you get any food like a big Dewey?
Or some show and tell before we go into
okay, show and tell is good.
Hey,
what the hell? Let's do show and tell.
So I was just informed. I asked for sweet potatoes.
Potatoes? You sound like my wife. She says taters. She says sweet potatoes.
I never say that. I don't know why I said that. Maybe I'm a little tired, or maybe I had a lot of really good sleep. So that helps. But I asked for 4 sweet potatoes from my lovely neighbor who went last Sunday. And 4 sweet potatoes. I usually they look like this. So here's my hand. How do we do this? It's quite large.
Yeah, no kidding.
Large. I'd say it's over 6 inches.
You could feed a family of 4 with that one.
This lasts a while. But what she got, and these are cooked. I baked them last night, are these little guys.
Little guys?
So look at the difference.
How do you know their gender? How do you know their gender? They're not little gals.
No. But apparently, I spoke to her today, and she said the local ones are really small like this. So the ones that I get at Sprouts or Costco are not local, but these are local. So 4 of these will make up one of these.
We actually grow them in our backyard here in Coronado, and they are smaller. They're the ones that you saw there. Yep.
Yeah. So they're I'm enjoying them because I cooked 4 of them last night, and my husband usually I puree them for him, and he usually enjoys them. But he's been in the hospital all week, but he's back. He's on his way back.
Well,
just a few days.
Just a few days. A little vacay for the Monika Klein Zone.
An evaluation. If you have a chronically ill person at home and there's some issues. I saw a comedy show. It's called Real Rob. It's Rob Schneider's. It's a sitcom, And he had this show last night where, if you're famous, you don't have to wait in line if you go to the ER, right? And he had just a paper cut and he was rushed right in. 117 people before him were. So don't go for a paper cut. Do not go to the ER for a paper cut, no matter how sick or chronically ill you or your loved one is.
Yeah. Speaking of paper, I had heard today, this is totally inconsequential, but Tiffany's apparently has a gold paper clip that they will sell you for $21,000. So.
I'm sure they do.
Yes.
That does not surprise me.
That's exactly.
And paper cut and getting in before everybody else does not surprise me either.
No. And people cutting in line to get their vaccine
surprised me more than anything. This knowledge that I gained today about the small and the local. That's a surprise.
Eat local, eat small.
Eat small. So another exciting thing is I have mentioned several times Hamama, which these grow kit. I was giving these as gifts, and I got them as gifts.
Yo, mama.
This is Hamama, and they come in these these things. They're sort of like platforms or whatever.
I was trying to get you
beds. I guess they're called beds. So this one was Energizing Kale Quilt. So they're called quilts, actually. Super Salad Mix Seed Green Quilt. Oh, let's see.
No, I did that so we could see it closer. It's a closer. If you go a little bit, you have to cover your face, though. So.
Oh, okay, like that.
There you go.
It's like this. It's flat like that.
They're flat.
It's flat like that. So I have seeded two now. And I had one on my windowsill, and I decided to show you the results. Ooh. See, it breaks open from the paper here. We're going to do an opening here.
It's like an unboxing, an unflatting.
Yeah. And so
it's very flattering.
It's flattering. This is, I can't remember which one this is. I think this is the salad or the kale. But this, you just cut them off and you add them to your meal and your salads or your eggs or whatever. I'm going to have poached eggs tonight because that's my new favorite thing, with some avocado and some, guess what?
So local and small.
So good. And they're so chock full of great nutrition. And they are yummy. I had a wasabi green sprouted last week, and it was so good.
Spicy? Was it super spicy?
It was a little spicy, but nice. It was nice and smooth. It wasn't like jarring, and it was because I can't eat a lot of spicy, but I can eat that. That was really yummy. So there you go, and it comes in this. Here we go. Another ad here. Comes in this little tray, and here we go.
We might put a link down below this video so people can order if they want to.
Yeah.
I don't think people are going to remember how to spell Hamama.
The first one didn't work for me because I kept watering it. And they also say that you don't need sunlight, but I disagree. I think sunlight helps.
All God's children need sunlight.
Yes. So those are my show and tell, and it's fun to be able to do that. Life and growth and fresh things.
Life and growth. I have a growth right here. No, that's a different thing.
This is from the sweet potatoes to the sprouts to the beautiful flowers. Life is good. Spring is fun.
And so ends the broadcast today. Oh, no, actually not. We have some time left. Hey, so what are we?
Hamama stay. That's what we're going to call Hamama stay.
Hamama stay or namaste?
Hamama stay.
Hamama stay. Hamama. Mama. Hey, so where are we now? Oh, let me go to our notes section so we don't forget stuff today.
Yeah, I usually have it by my side too, and I don't. So I'm winging it.
You're gonna wing it?
I'm winging it.
I'm Vogelmann, which means Birdman, so I can loan you a wing.
You can, and I'm Klein, which means little. So I'm a little Birdman.
You're a little Birdman.
Well, no, in this broadcast today, the team is Little Birdman.
Eine kleine Monika.
Eine kleine Vogelmann.
No, I'm bigger than that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not like one of those sweet potatoes.
Yeah, of course you don't want to be considered little. You want to be larger than life.
I consider myself average, but my 13-year-old stepson thinks that I'm a dwarf because I'm 5'9". So
how tall is he?
6'2" at 13.
Yeah.
Wearing
Well,
a
of
size
course, you would think
14
that.
shoe, soon to be
You
a
would think that.
15. Yeah.
You would think that.
Yeah.
And he's a lot taller than Mama too.
Yeah, he's taller than Mama. He's taller than all of us. Anyway, so height is one thing that we do not share, but we do share a love of music and several other things. Hey, so when we're talking about things having to do with science, did you want to address vaccine passports first or the blood clotting thing?
Blood clotting. But I wanted to ask you, have you seen
Mhm.
Mozart in the Jungle, music lover yourself?
I have on numerous occasions. I haven't seen the latest season. I went through 5 seasons, I think.
There
Is that?
is no latest, and there were only
Oh, then
4
that explains why I
seasons.
haven't gone through any recent ones.
There were only 4 seasons. I just watched it in the last month, and
I feel
thoroughly
like I should
enjoyed
play
it.
the viola now, though.
Yes, you should. But you do French horn, don't you?
French horn. I almost did cello, but instead the band director switched me from bass drum to French horn, which is a tremendous leap of faith. So
But you
on
did
his
it, and
part.
you did it very well.
I think that's the only reason I got into university was because they needed an extra French horn player.
Had I known, I would have applied as well.
Exactly, with an instrument in hand.
Yes.
So anyway,
So back to COVID news. I
COVID and
have
clotting.
someone who has had the Pfizer vaccine.
Oh yeah,
And the second dose, he was sick for 2 days after the
Mhm.
first dose. And the second dose, he was out for an entire week. He had a lot of bleeding, profuse bleeding coming from his nose,
wow.
and clotting. And of course,
Wait,
we
wait, profuse bleeding with clotting? Those are two incompatible.
well, yeah, no, it's both. He's getting both. He's getting nonstop bleeding and clots being formed that he's coughing out. Yeah.
I think the coagulation is different than clots because it's just it's like saying I'm hot and cold at the same time, which you could alternate.
This is called cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, or CVST, from the vaccine. And they're seeing that, of course, with the AstraZeneca as well as now the Johnson & Johnson, less cases with the Pfizer, but definitely
How many with Pfizer, considering there's over 120 million done?
Well, less. I mean, I saw numbers, but it was like 100,000, 34 and 100,000. So it's quite rare. And that might have changed since I last read it or when the article was written. So I don't know. I mean, is there pre-existing that is undiagnosed? Is there, a genetic type, an ethnic genetic type? I don't know either. Probably not, because they would isolate that at this point too. But certainly there's more of a predisposition for younger people that are getting the vaccines. He's 42. So he came in the other night to work and had been in the ER all night with this nosebleed and still having clots coming from his nose as well. So he's having both. So it's a very rare disorder, but it is affecting people.
Yeah, it's actually exceedingly rare. The reality, what I've been reading up on in the last week or so was that the risk of inflammation within a blood vessel and clotting, as well as profuse bleeding, it's 8 to 10 times higher from a COVID infection, the likelihood, than it is from a vaccine, like any of the vaccines. And so that's really, in the cost, I'm not going to say cost benefit, but some people will say it's basically a calculated risk, because in treatment with heparin, which is a blood thinner, you will actually see some people who get clotting from a blood thinner.
Yeah, so that's the comparison with the heparin. They're comparing the result with that, but no symptoms whatsoever. Went to the ER. Kept saying, I didn't have anything like this before this vaccine. It happened right after the vaccine. They had no answer. They didn't address this concern. They just sort of, it's a nosebleed. That's how they kind of took care of him, so to speak.
Well, and I think that has to do a lot with just there's so many unknowns, both in terms of the virus itself, the
Well, we know
various
there's a clotting
mutations.
disorder issue, a rare clotting disorder possibility. We know that it's everywhere. We know that. So why would that not be addressed?
Well, I mean, what you're looking at, because I did the calculations, like what are six women in a population of, it's actually closer to
But
7.3,
it's not even about the calculations. It's like personalized medicine. This person is presenting with these symptoms right now. And the correlating factors are he had the vaccine not 2 days before this started happening. So address the patient you have in front of me, not the statistics. You know what I mean? So, and that's not being done.
Well, but that's no, I'm not going to get into this.
It's not being done, and in fact, it wasn't being done.
Yeah, this is the whole thing that I'm often reminded of the fact that in school when we were trained in physical diagnosis, the admonition was when you hear hoofbeats, think of horses, not zebras. And so your first line in making a diagnosis is to rule out what are the most common possible causes and causal factors. And then, and two, having with friends who are ER nurses and ICU nurses and doctors in the ER, the amount of pressure that they are facing with respect to coming up with quick diagnostic assessments amongst the overflowing number of patients that still continue to this day. We're in the fourth spike, except in California, we're pretty darn lucky at this point. The fact that you have just this overwhelm in the system where some of our friends are spending 110 hours a week in the ER tending to COVID patients. I think the expectations of the healthcare system are way too high. And I guess
this has nothing to do with the healthcare system. I mean, the healthcare workers, they are doing the best they can. No doubt at all. However, there seems to be some disregard for like pretty obvious things going on, like this correlation, if it's a rarity. I mean, I could say what you just said, at any time when you're in the ER. My husband went into the ER and, in 2014 at the end of the year, and he couldn't breathe. And they were assessing him and they were thinking it was this. They could have let him go home with some meds but no, they didn't. They kept him in because they weren't sure what was going on. And thank God they did, because he had a pulmonary embolism by the end of that day, which could have done him in. So it may just be a simple nosebleed. A simple cut can turn into sepsis, So you have to, I can understand if this was like at Christmas when it was just crazy in the emergency departments all over, especially in California. I can understand then, but and again, I'm not trying to blame anybody here. I'm just saying that this needs to bring attention, and it's also the onus of the actual patient too, to be aware of what the possibilities are. But when they're sick and they're like they've been hit over the head after a vaccine, it's really hard for them to do some of this investigation because they're totally out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think what I'm trying to do is make people aware of these kinds of abnormalities or these kinds of, things that could be a possibility, especially if there's symptoms in anything, actually, if there's symptoms that just don't make sense. Get it checked out, do your research, have someone help you for sure if you can't do it, and get to the bottom of it, whether COVID or not COVID, any kind of thing that you're experiencing, anything abnormal in your body that just doesn't make sense. Get it checked out. Would you agree?
I would agree in checking things out. I think where having been in the position of being a healthcare provider and having so many people who are, there is a degree of overwhelm that can't be underestimated, particularly the level of fatigue that people have. And as I go back to physical diagnosis, you don't go for the rarest things. I mean, at the Harvard Harvard Student Health Center. I remember this many years ago. One of my college roommates, Ashok from India, came in, and he had arrived from New Delhi, and he wasn't feeling so well. So at first they thought it was a cold, and he went to the University Health Services. They released him. Then he went back to the health services. They said, "Oh, you just had the flu," and they released him. And the third time he went back to the University Health Services, it turns out he had malaria.
Mhm.
And malaria in Cambridge, Massachusetts, is a rather rare occurrence these days. In fact, even in the 70s. But once again, they weren't looking for malaria. And I think it was, and he became quite a famous case because all the students on rotation wanted to see somebody who had malaria.
I could understand that, but this is in front of us. I mean, they're taking vaccines off the market. They're stopping vaccines because of this very thing. So it's not
merely,
like
it is merely pausing. It's pausing. I feel like
but it's a pause.
We're almost like we're at point counterpoint.
Yeah, I mean, here we are, Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd.
I'm not going to say, Jane, you ignorant slut. No, I'm not going to.
No, do not say that, because anyway, my name's not Jane, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it's very evident that this is a major thing, even though it's a rare disorder. It's a major thing. And
my counterpoint is it's a relatively minor thing compared to COVID. So that's my opinion. So.
Well, it's not a minor thing if you die from it.
No. And I can show you many instances where people die from a lot of other things that are seemingly innocent, like acetaminophen. So it's one of those things where.
But we're not talking about like a reaction to something that's very abnormal. We're talking about something where people are. I don't think we're going to get anywhere. So please send in your comments, and if you have questions, I just believe that I'm not here to protect anybody. I'm just saying that if there's something that's kind of correlating so obviously, get that treated as soon as possible, so the person doesn't have to suffer. That's the whole thing, is to relieve suffering. And there are treatments for this kind of issue.
Who knew this would be such a hot topic today?
Who knew? Well, if we see it firsthand and it becomes less of an abstract thing, it becomes you become a little more affected and a little more passionate about what needs to be what needs to be in place, or
No, I agree. In fact, that it reminds me of my wife's side of the family. There were 3 doctors, a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, and a family practitioner.
Is this a joke? They all walked into a bar?
All of whom died from COVID in Durango, Mexico. And mind you, the heart surgeon and the brain surgeon did not have to go into the hospital because that was not their specialty, emergency medicine, but they felt an obligation to take care of people. The heart surgeon and the brain surgeon both died within 24 hours of each other. Yeah. So we actually take the COVID infection very seriously, having had the death of family members.
And here's another piece that I want to address. It's like, when did that happen? Okay, we've been with it for a year now. We should be a little more savvier with now COVID and the vaccines. We should be a little more aware and able to address these things, but we're not.
Yeah, well, this was back just a couple months ago.
Okay, so it was in the last little while. It wasn't the beginning of the epidemic.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, and I think repeated exposure by healthcare providers to the virus may have been a factor involved in this, because it's just a little crazy. It takes a long time to create another brain surgeon or another cardiothoracic surgeon. It's not like you pull them off the street. So.
And that was in a really heightened time as well. If it was a couple of months ago, that was still a very heightened time of
you're looking at I think it's January. I believe it's January, early February. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Go ahead. Speaking
go ahead and keep on.
Speaking of the obligation of a physician, I was speaking to my husband's gastroenterologist, who doesn't go into the hospital anymore.
Yeah.
He just can't expose himself, and he's got his own issues, I suppose, some other health issues himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. The one of the things that I do recall is that the exposure is one thing. Some of the nurses and nurse practitioners whom we know, they have some significant issues there. It's just and the thing about Mexico is they really didn't have vaccines available.
Yeah,
So
well, there's that too.
what they were getting in terms of what most people have gotten in terms of vaccines in Mexico actually is the Russian vaccine. Because
Sputnik, right?
the Sputnik, because the Americans have been less generous to our neighbors to the south than the Russians have been, which I found fascinating to me. It reminds me of the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again.
Well, I mean, it just makes me a little more suspicious. I mean, what is in that vaccine if they're giving it to, poor countries?
Well, hey, there's proposals right now for the United States to be giving 5% of the stockpile of vaccines. I think it was 5% to Canada, 5% to Mexico. So in some of the public policies, some of the stuff in terms of healthcare, because the reality is you want the neighboring countries on your border to be relatively healthy.
Of course. Yes. Well,
it's in your self-interest. So
yeah, and then we have also the question. I mean, we don't know. The vaccine, we don't know.
Yeah. So when it comes to vaccines and travel, we were going to talk a little bit about vaccine passports for what types of things.
And I just read an article, and it was more about having passports for events and different, not necessarily getting on the plane, because I know that's been that's been bandied about here and there. I mean, probably much more seriously than just bandied about. But yeah, this is like sporting events and concerts and all sorts of things that you have to. And here's another situation. I had an aide that was not allowed to go onto a clinical site because he had not been vaccinated, but he had COVID in December. So he's developed the antibodies. So it's actually dangerous to get the vaccination after you've developed these antibodies. And, he's 24, 25. And, it doesn't make sense that he would be restricted. I mean, I suppose that's kind of like the regulations that are being developed as we speak, but it doesn't medically make sense that he would not.
Well, yeah, this is where we're going to go back to a different one. This is where I disagree, only because we just had the first case in San Diego of a person who was reinfected with COVID-19 after the second shot, like it was 6 weeks after the second shot of the Pfizer. So mind you, these things are only like 94. Well, Pfizer is amazing at 94%. I was flabbergasted because most cold and flu vaccines, they're happy if you get 50, 60% effectiveness.
But he had COVID. He hasn't had a vaccination. So he's actually more immune than the vaccinated people.
Interesting.
Potentially.
Here's the thing. So one of our friends is a Navy doctor who's dealt with COVID patients, and one of the things that she'd mentioned was that when you have an infection and you're going to get the vaccine, she suggested you wait about maybe 4 to 6 months or so.
Yes, exactly.
But it was based more upon giving other people the chance to get the vaccine, not as a danger necessarily. And so I found that to be really interesting because the reality is with a single shot of, say, Pfizer or any of these, Moderna or so, a person who has already got the antibodies and gets the single shot is far more immune, if you will, to an infection than somebody who has had 2 shots and not had the infection in the first place. I thought that was really interesting.
I think we need to get, a virologist on and an immunologist on.
Why don't you bring one of those next time?
Let's bring some, qualified. I mean, we're doing a lot of speculation, and I think there is a lot of speculation. It's not just us, of course. I mean, it's a very interesting thing, and so we could end our counterpoint for today and start again next week. We could pick another tamer topic, let's
pick a topic like how much longer for masks.
Or how about Q&A? Why don't we just move
We
on to
could go
Q&A?
to Q&A. We'll talk about masks and vaccine passports next time.
Let's explore that a little bit more. Yes.
Yeah.
Another time.
Another time. Let's see. Oh, first up today from Oregon, our neighbor to the north. Sue from Ashland is
Ashland,
asking
lovely
the
place.
following question. Ashland. I've never been. We had Ashland oil when I was growing up in Buffalo.
University town.
Oh, okay. In the middle of detox. I'm assuming she says, okay, I am in the middle of a detox and I have a family emergency. What should I do? It depends on the nature. Feel like the operator at 911. What is the nature of your emergency?
Well, here's the thing. If it's all consuming, this emergency, this family emergency,
Yeah.
I would just delay your detox, because detoxes require like focus on yourself. It's not just a detox from eliminating this food and this food and this food. It's a detox for you to rest mentally, physically, emotionally. So if you're under duress, it's probably the best thing to sort of put a pause button until you can resume at a better time, because it may not be the best time. Now, if it is something that, has come and gone, of course you can again resume. And sometimes doing a detox or a healthy eating plan just gives you some sort of package or protection, so you don't go off the deep end and start stress eating during this particular emergency.
Yeah, no sudden diving into the donuts at Dunkin'.
Yeah. So depending, again, as Christopher said, depending on what kind of emergency it is, but if it requires, it's all consuming, it's probably best that you focus on the emergency at this point, while taking care of yourself as much as possible as well.
I think you got to kind of ease on out of the detox, if you will. It depends on what you're doing. If you've had no food and just maybe functional foods like Ultra Clear and other things that we used to use, as Monica says, you don't want to suddenly reintroduce everything in there. I wouldn't go out, have a steak and baked potatoes if you were just, on a plant-based detox diet.
Yeah, and it depends what stage you're at. Did you just start? Are you in the middle? Are you in the tail end of it? So it really is a choice you have to make. But don't worry. If it's an extreme detox and you're working with someone, hopefully, I mean, if it is an intense, not say extreme, intense detox, and you're working with someone, run it by them and see what they might suggest, how you might ease off or pause for a day or a week.
And you can always go back. Nobody says that, you're forever not able to do this detox.
Yeah. And that's the pause that I'm referring to, a pause.
Oh, these weren't the cat paws.
No, I pause.
Your pause.
I pause in this moment.
So hopefully that helps. If you want some greater clarity on this or can provide us with some more information, just put your comment down below the video here, depending on where you are. You could be in Total Health Live, or you could be in Coaching for Health or any of the other locations where we're currently broadcasting.
Yes, indeed.
Is Stanton in Connecticut? Or what is this?
Stanton, Ohio, isn't it?
Ohio? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So Tom is next up. Tom from Stanton, Ohio. He says, I woke up from my COVID stupor to gaining 40 pounds over the last year. I work at home, which is something that's relatively new for me. Sit at my desk all day. What are the top 5 things that I should start doing? And how can I possibly stay motivated? My normal weight is 200. I'm now up to 240 and I'm 6 feet tall. So your COVID stupor, have you had the COVID-19 infection, Tom?
I don't know, Christopher.
We don't know. We might need more information.
For a minute.
we're willing to speculate, Tom, that you're talking about just maybe being in the pandemic without the infection.
I would think.
Okay. All right, Tom. Whew, I'm glad I have Monica here to interpret for me. So what do you think? But wait, there's more. Yeah. Hopefully there's less.
Yeah. So there's more. Yes, there is more. And so it's common. I hear this all the time. And I mean, when this first started, it was like those who were getting into exercising and getting leaned up or down, anyway, they were getting leaner. And some people, they were gung-ho initially, and then they just sort of trailed off. so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people had a little bit of an issue with weight gain and not being, I think more people had that issue. Some people just got lean. As I said, they leaned out and they started exercising more, walking more, doing all sorts of things, had more time for themselves. But for you, I would say that you start walking, and maybe have, if you do have a desk job, maybe you want to maybe put your computer on an elevated surface so you're standing, you can exercise even while you're working, getting up, going outside, getting some fresh air, taking some downtime, not constantly working 24, well, I won't say 24/7, but if it's 8 hours straight, take breaks. You need to take breaks. So that's two, I think. One is start exercising, just go for a walk, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and build that habit up. And then secondly, take breaks. Third, don't have food around you when you're working.
I was looking for some right now.
Make it an effort. The only food I have around me is my sweet potato and my sprouts.
Can you eat a sweet potato raw?
No, I don't think that would be a good idea. Your stomach would not like it. So
I'm just curious. I'm curious because
it's like eating potato raw. Although potatoes are much more starchier than a sweet potato.
But potato juice. If you juice a raw potato, from what I remember many years ago, it supposedly is really good for ulcers and stomach conditions. Potato juice, raw potato juice. Anyway, not that I'm advising that for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, just because it may not be the right thing for everybody. It could cause some disruption. So yeah, if you are going to have a few snacks around, I sometimes will have grapes or some blueberries, but make an effort to go and get and take a pause when you're eating. Don't eat at your desk, because you're going to forget that you're eating. That you've eaten. Your brain needs to connect with the food. You need to be present when you're eating. You need to your brain needs to connect, and your stomach needs to connect with your brain in the whole action of having that meal or that snack or whatever you have, and get into a routine. I have breakfast at this time. I have lunch at this time. I have dinner at this time. Give yourself some sort of routine. At this time, just before I have dinner, I will go for my walk, or before I start my job, I will go for my walk, or do some, whatever you want to do, yoga or some other kind of exercise from your computer. But if you're working at your computer all day long, it's best probably to go outside, do something different, get out.
Well, even just get up out of the chair every few minutes or so. There was a study done. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was something about men who sit more than 5 hours a day have, I think, a 40% chance of having a lower life expectancy by X number of years.
Yeah, colon cancer, all sorts of other conditions, diabetic conditions. I mean, depending on what you're eating.
I was going to say I like a standing desk.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, like some sort of like standing desk. Did I say standing desk or higher desk? Something where you can move and be active. Now, you don't have to do that all day long, but you might have another, workstation. I know that might be a little more complicated, but if you have a laptop, you can move it anywhere.
Here's the easiest solution I've come with, because I've been eyeing standing desks, but I want to get a super fancy one, and it's just not in my budget right now. But I use 2 cardboard boxes, and I put them on top of each other and create on the desk the equivalent of a standing desk. So it's not expensive to do that. So.
I have a hospital table, those kinds that you can wheel around and lift up and raise up. I have one upstairs. My husband has another one that's a little more bigger and better. So I have the old one. So I use that sometimes, and it's perfect. You can raise it, you can move it. It's really lightweight. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And it's not expensive. They're not expensive at all.
Oh, really? What's the range?
They're like, they start maybe at $100.
You're kidding me. Standing desks are far more expensive.
You can go to a medical supply store and you can take it anywhere. You can pick it up and take it downstairs or put it in your bedroom. You could actually put it in your bedroom as you're on, in your bed, and it goes over the bed. That's what they're designed for, to go over the bed.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. Do you know which one I mean? The kind
Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the one that just sort of raises and lowers. Yeah, it's like a
What kind were you
tray,
thinking? That's
like
like
a
a tray
tray table,
table.
like a
It's like
tray
a tray table.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking of the entire hospital.
No.
No. Okay.
I was talking tables, not bed.
Tables, not beds. Okay, I gotcha. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Hey,
So
so
no wonder you were shocked by the price.
yeah, I was shocked. Like, where do I get one? It was like,
You don't need the bed, Christopher.
well, you don't know how big my computer is, so. I will tell you, though, the standing desks, when it comes to getting greater comfort, the widths do vary. And I have my setup here in this office is such that I can only get a 36-inch wide desk, but they sell them like 48, 60 inches wide, where you can put multiple monitors on there and your laptop and a few other things, even extra speakers and a camera if you want to.
I'm going to pull this over. So, I'm totally into show and tell today.
You're into show and tell today? Do tell.
Can you tell I'm into show and tell?
Do tell. And on with the show.
And on with the show. And so
where are you? What's going on?
I'm sorry. I've got my laptop, and I just wanted to show you this particular desk.
Oh, the table?
Yeah, the table. It's just a normal hospital tray table, but they're very effective.
It's not electric or something. It's not electronic, is it?
No, they have really expensive ones. I said how easy it was to maneuver these, but
they're so simple. They're so easy that even a noted nutritionist can do it.
Oh my God. And of course, it's not working very well because there we go.
I think it's got pandemic fatigue. That sound is familiar to me because I've been in hospitals where I've heard. Well, that sound is not familiar to me. Usually that's a patient dropping.
That's all my flowers dropping on the.
Oh, no. Do you want me? I'll continue for a while you clean up the flowers.
Can you block me out?
I can block you out. Yeah, let me just.
Thank you.
I will change your video. Let's see if I can remove the video. Oh, I can only kick you from the studio. Let's see. Here's what I can do. Yeah, I'll just feature myself.
Remember I told you?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here by myself right now with Monika Klein in the distance, cleaning up a batch of vegetable items that have fallen onto. Oh no, the flowers. It was the flowers have fallen. There's nothing worse than fallen flowers except for fallen heroes, and that's coming up in Memorial Day. I wonder what else she's got going there. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to continue on while she figures out what to do with her flowers. This is the beauty of live video, that you can have things happen in real time. I think maybe it was a flaw to go after the table. Show and tell sometimes gives you a little bit of a problem. All right. So Tom, back to you. Hopefully you've actually gotten some ideas on walking and doing little things to get rid of those extra 40 pounds. I think walking was one of them that Monika mentioned, moderating your intake. I would suggest things like increasing the amount of water that you're taking in, because hydration is super important. Your body is 70% water. And if you're not replenishing it, you're not getting rid of all the toxins and things that you need. Interestingly enough, your brain is 80% water. And so your brain is very dependent upon hydration also. Other things, as Monika mentioned, getting into a routine where you have your daily routine, super important. And I think that's about it. If you want more information, you can actually go into, whoops, Monika disappeared completely. I can't believe that. Anyway, if you want more information, you can come into the comment section down below here and just mention your concerns. So I think we lost Monika. So Nettie, you and Austin and a few others, I think we may be rounding out this hour. Unfortunately, without the lovely Monika. So this is Dr. Christopher Vogelmann here on behalf of Monika Klein, whom I refer to as the nutritionist to the stars of coaching for health, letting you remember that every Friday we will be here at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 4 p.m. Eastern time. And please continue to submit your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them as we go along. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, if it's Friday, it's Total Health Live Day. We'll see you next week. Bye.